As we know, Windows Server 2025 is here. And if you want your server to be stable, secure, and future-proof, today's checklist covers everything you need to know before going into production. If you're looking for specific step-by-step instructions related to Windows Server 2025, we do have a lot of those on the channel, so be sure to take a look. All right, let's get started. All right, guys, so for this video, I'm using a licensed copy of Windows Server 2025. I've already made some changes and configurations to this server as it is the primary server for demo on this channel. So the very first thing we want to do is actually verify our edition and our activation. How do we do that? Well, we want to confirm that we're on the right edition, and for 90% of small businesses and labs, Windows Server 2025 standard is perfect. Let's go into our settings. So I'll hit Windows key and I together to bring up our settings. We can see our computer name or our host name as DC1. And then if I go into System, we're going to see a box called Activation. Let's click that. And we can see both our activation status or the option to change our product key. If you're not sure which edition you're currently on, we can use the DISM command from our command prompt. So type CMD to bring up the command prompt. From command prompt, we'll right click and we'll click Run as Administrator. Another way to access the command prompt is at the Run box. Windows key and R together, type CMD and press OK. We're going to type in DISM /online /get-current edition. And what it returns is going to tell us our current edition of Windows, which we can see we have Server Standard. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to run some initial configuration tasks. We would recommend renaming the server, assigning your static IP address, ensuring the correct time zone, and then also enabling Windows Update, and lastly doing a restart. And so we'll start with the first step, which is to rename the server. For this, let's go into our server manager, and we'll go into local server, and we'll see our server right here. So we'll go ahead and click our current computer name. And if I bring this over, we can see that to rename this computer or change this domain or workgroup, click change. So we can click change. And note that we're getting a domain controller pop-up. That's because I have promoted to domain controller. So I won't be able to rename the local server from this menu right now, but this is where you would go about renaming your server, and my server is called DC1. If you already did the promotion to domain controller, you can actually still rename. You just need to use a series of commands. This is an example of how you would rename your domain controller. So you use the netdom command. You would list your computer's name. You would specify the old name and then add the new name. After you do that, you would run this command here, which is to set the new name as the primary name. And then there's one more command that you can enter to remove the old name. So just a series of commands, and you can have your domain controller renamed, but you probably won't be dealing with this if you're watching this video, but we figured we would just quickly show it. Now, after you've done that, you can also assign your static IP address. So also from our local server menu, let's click into our Ethernet, and we'll right click on this and we'll hit Properties. We'll double click into Internet Protocol version 4. Here is where you would obtain the IP address automatically, which is what it will likely say by default. Instead, we'll use the following IP address. And then here we can set our static IP. Now, if you're not sure what values to enter, again, we can go into our CMD and we'll type ipconfig/all. Now, if you have an automatic IP address, your subnet mask and your default gateway should remain the same, so you can use those values if you'd like to. And then you'll just set an IPv4 address manually, which this is the one that I have set here. Once you're done that, enter a preferred DNS server. I put this as the same as my default gateway, and then you simply press OK. Now, after you've assigned the static IP, we can ensure the correct time zone. We can do that here. Let's bring up our run box again. This time we're going to type timedate.cpl. It's going to bring up our date and time menu, and we can see that we're currently in Pacific time, which is actually incorrect. I am in Central Standard Time. So I'm going to change date and time. Actually, I'm going to change time zone. From Pacific time, I'm going to go to Chicago Central Standard Time, US and Canada, right there. I'll press OK, and I'll press OK. And now we can see it's updated the time accordingly. It's actually 8:16 a.m. here. Now, in order to enable Windows Update, okay, we're going to use the run box one more time. Windows key and R. This time type services.msc. Once we're here, we're looking for the Windows Update service, which we should see down towards the bottom. Let me just find it really quick. And Windows Admin, Windows Update. There we go. let's right click into Windows Update and hit Properties. I'm going to change my startup type from manual to automatic. This is going to enable the detection, download, and installation of Windows for updates and other programs. All right, let's hit apply and we'll hit OK. All right, so we've ran some initial configuration tasks. We've manually set our IP. We've renamed the server. We've checked our activation and addition status. Let's go on to installing some roles and features. So we're going to go back into the server manager for a little bit. And if you're familiar with Windows Server, you'll know that you have a manage option here, and then we can bring up our roles and features wizard. So this is going to give us the ability to install roles that we may need for our server, such as Active Directory domain services, DNS, DHCP, Hyper-V, and other tools. And so we have RDS services installation or role-based installations. And if we look through this, selecting our server from the server pool, for example, I could install Hyper-V, which I don't have installed yet. You're going to see this little menu pop up, and generally we want to add the features, and we also want to include management tools. So this is going to do all of the feature installation for us. So I'll click Add Features, and it's loading. Oh, that's right. I can't install Hyper-V here because I'm currently running this on a virtual machine, but just to show you guys the process anyways, we can see that I do have DHCP server, DNS server, Active Directory domain, remote desktop services. I have these things installed. Once you select the feature that you want to install, you just click Next. And then once you get down to the bottom, you'll press Install to install those features. We recommend to only install what the server will actually use. We don't want to have role bloat, essentially. And you'll likely have to restart the system once you do this. The next thing we may want to do is promote the server to a domain controller if needed. So just like I just showed you guys, if we install the roles and features and we add Active Directory domain services, once you restart and install Active Directory domain services, this little flag will give you a notification, and it's going to ask if you want to promote the server to domain controller. Since I already have this server promoted to domain controller, we're not going to cover those exact steps in this video. We do have a very simple step-by-step tutorial for this that you can follow along with. If you'd like to watch that, you can click right here. Okay, so if you are promoted to domain controller, you may want to create organizational units. So we have this tools setting right here where we can access our Active Directory users and computers. And then right clicking on our domain, we have the option to hover over new. And then here we can add an organizational unit. I'll title this Indigo November Demo, and we can see our new OU here. Good OU structure makes group policy cleaner and makes management much easier long term. From here, we can easily do basic configurations. For example, I can create new groups or contacts under this. Another thing we want to show you is group policy management. If we want to do that, we can just search for group policy management. We'll open that up. And we can see here we have group policy objects. So for example, I could create a new group policy object. Maybe this one is for Windows Update policies. So I'm going to go back to Active Directory users and computers. Let's say in my Indigo November demo, I want to have a group. I'll just title it new users for now. So we have this group. I will go into this group and hit properties, and I'll click members, and let's add a few members. I'll add myself, and I'll hit OK, and I'll hit apply, and I'll hit OK. So what I'm showing you guys here is how to add a group and how to add users to the group, which we can then apply our group policy settings specifically to that group. And it's fairly simple to do so. I'm going to right click on my new GPO. I'm back in group policy management, and I'll click edit. Here we have the group policy management editor. Since I want to configure updates, I'm going to go to computer configuration and administrative templates, which is under policies. I'm going to click on Windows components. And then here I should be able to find Windows update, which we can see right here. So I'll double click this. Here I'm going to edit legacy policies. And then inside of that, we can actually see our policies. So let's say, for example, I want to allow automatic updates immediate installation, which you probably wouldn't. But just for example's sake, I'll double click this and I'll switch it to enabled. And I'll hit apply and I'll hit OK. So I can close the group policy management editor. Now we're back in group policy management. So in group policy management, we can see the organizational unit that we created. I can right click and I can hit link an existing GPO. And I can click the new Windows Update Policies GPO that we just made. And so now we can see that they're linked and we can see this policy in my new organizational unit. Going back into Active Directory users and computers, so we have our new users under our new OU that we just created. Now, if I want, I could also just right click empty space in here and create a new user. Let's just call this user Dan, and I can give them a logon username. So dan@indigosoftware.com. And then I need to set their password. I'm going to uncheck the first option and I'll check the middle two. And I'll give Dan a password. I'll press next and I'll press finish. Now, I did create a security group. Dan is not automatically a member of this, but he is under the new organizational unit. So again, clicking into my security group, if I click members, I can add Dan directly from here. Just type it and then press check the name and we should see it come up, which we do. And we'll press apply and we'll press OK. And so again, this is how to create groups and users and OUs. We also have our default user folder. So I could have just added the user to here, which is probably the more correct thing to do. If you need to delete a user, you can simply right click and hit delete. So we have our security group under our new OU. Let's go ahead and recreate Dan really quick. Okay, so we've got Dan inside of our users folder. And now we can add them back into this group. And there we go. So the reason we use groups is because it's a better practice and easier to manage permissions when we apply those to groups and not to users. And so that's the reason for the security group. Next up, we may want to enable and secure remote desktop. So we'll go to our system settings. So Windows key together with I. We'll go to system, and if we scroll down, we'll see remote desktop. So we have this enabled by default. We've got our remote desktop port, and then we've got our required devices to use network level authentication, which we will want. And if we click remote desktop users, we can see that I have administrator access, and then my user Gabe also has access. So we recommend keeping this locked down. We may, for example, only want to have administrators use this, and now we're good. Now, the next good practice we're going to recommend is to install Windows Server Backup. We'll do this again from our server manager, manage, add roles and features. And then if we just scroll down on our wizard here, we're going to see Windows Server Backup. Oh, sorry, it's not in the roles, it's actually in the features. So let me scroll down a little bit. We can see Windows Server Backup, which I already have installed. If you don't, you'll click this, we'll click next, you'll hit install and you'll hit confirm. Once you do that, you may have to restart your server. And once you actually install backup, it'll be its own system setting. So if we type Windows Server Backup, we'll see it come up. And we can basically configure it all from here. So we can see that we have our local backup was last successful in July. And we can configure this if we want to. So we have an action menu in our top right. We may want to start with doing a backup once, which will back up the current state of our system. And then for prolonged longevity, we can configure a backup schedule if we'd like to. So this will bring up its own wizard. We'll press next. Let's do the full server, or we could do custom volumes or files. And let's say I want to do my backup once a day, every day at 7 p.m. I'll click next. We want to specify a destination type. And so we could actually do this to a dedicated hard drive. We could do this to a separate volume on our system, or we could do a shared network folder. So once you've selected your option, you can hit next. And I can't go all the way through this because I'm on a virtual hard disk, so I don't have the ability to actually do this backup. Again, you would just go through the confirmation and summary pages and then your backup server, and then your backup schedule would be fully configured. The next tip we have for you guys is simply just to install updates and reboot. So we want to apply our core updates now, not after users are onboarded. And so we'll check Windows Update. We see we have some updates to make here. Let's go ahead and install all, and we can move on to the next tip. And the next tip that we have is to document everything. We can use a simple text file for this. So we have Notepad, which will be installed in our system by default. Every server should have basic documentation, so we can document our host name, our IP address. Again, if you're not sure what that is, you can just enter your CMD, type ipconfig/all. We may want to just go ahead and document all of this. So I'll copy it, I'll paste it in here. We may want to have our admin accounts documented. Again, keeping it really simple here, but this is a consistent way to just make sure you have everything that you need accessible at any time. All right, guys, that's the full Windows Server 2025 setup checklist. If you follow those, you'll be well ahead of any future problems. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for today's video. If you have any questions about anything we covered, feel free to drop those in the comments down below, and we'll get back with you as soon as we can. If you're interested in purchasing Microsoft Office, Windows 10, Windows 11, Windows Server, remote desktop licenses, or a wide variety of other Microsoft software at a great price, be sure to check out Indigo Software. We'll have those links down below. As our channel continues to grow, we're constantly looking for new video topic ideas. If you have any ideas of your own, we'd love to know what those are. Most viewer commented video requests get made into actual videos on our channel. Lastly, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated as it helps to support the channel. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys next time.